thank you for joining me on the Youth Employment Job Hunting Series 101. Joining me still, I have Joe Howell from Price Waterhouse Coopers, and I have Freddie Barton joining me from the CDC of Tampa. Earlier, we discussed topics regarding resume etiquette and getting your foot in the door, and now we're going to talk about that last final stage to getting that employment position that you want, which is the interviewing. At my job, where I do the work readiness training, I speak with some of the youth regarding interview topics, and they have a couple of questions. First, what are some of your pet peeves about interviewing with the youth, or with anybody for that matter?
How much time do we have? No, one of the things that that just could kill an interview for me is if you don't come in with a firm handshake. If your handshake to me says something about you, that you're not confident in yourself, that you're not confident in this interview, that you just, to me, it just irks me. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
So really come in confident that you are going to ace the interview. At least fool me with your handshake. Handshake to me says a lot.
Right.
You know, communicate with your eyes. Look at me when I'm talking. Don't hold your head down. Don't
Right.
slouching. We can go on and on, but I think for me the most important would be when I first meet you, coming in with that handshake. I definitely feel that you should address whoever it is that you're interviewing with. You don't want to break the hand
Right.
off, of course, but I think that to me says a lot.
So what about timing in interviews? How important?
As far as arriving, if you're not there, if you're not inside the lobby, sitting down, waiting for the supervisor or the interviewing manager 15 minutes prior, feel free to just leave at that point. Either arrive 30 minutes and just give yourself a few minutes to kind of relax and chill out, and then walk into the lobby at least 15 minutes. If not, go ahead, feel free to leave at that point, because you're not respecting the time of the company, you're not respecting the time of the employer.
Correct.
You need to also once you're there, allow for as much time as it takes. I've heard stories where people, and youth and adults alike, they go into the interview and they think the interview is going to last 15 minutes. Well, the interviewer may want to ask you a lot of questions, or have you do an assessment, or have you do some kind of test, or fill out paperwork. And now the candidate is saying, well, I've got to go. I've got to go to pick up my child in another 30 minutes, or I need to go and do this, or I thought this wasn't going to take too long. You are questioning how long it's taking you to get this interview, to get this job. Be prepared to stay there as long as it takes.
Right.
And to me, I think an interview is more of a conversation.
Right.
Instead of answer this question, this question, this question.
Correct.
To me, a successful interview, in my opinion, is where I'm just conversing like we
Right.
are here today. Having a conversation, I'm getting to know you, you getting to know me. A lot of times, companies are going to do what we call a behavioral interview, and it's really not so much about your skills, but they want to understand how you process a thought, or what is going to be your reaction if a certain situation comes up. So they're going to ask you questions that will allow you to explain how you would think through a certain situation. So that's when those leadership roles that we talked about in community service or in organizations come about. That's when your skills that you did at another job, whether it was babysitting or lawn care, those type of things, you want to be able to articulate a clear thought. You want to be able to share about who you are, because now you're going to be working for this individual, right. This company. So make it a conversation. Don't be stiff. Don't be reserved. Go in there without a time limit.
Right.
Tell them who you are, tell them what you're about, and I think that will.
Yeah. Another pet peeve is the volume, the communication. If I'm asking you a question, I'm the interviewer, and you're trying to get this job, and I ask you, well, tell me a little bit about yourself, and your volume is like this, and I don't know if you guys
speak
can
loudly
hear me,
and
but,
clearly.
It's speak loudly, speak clearly. Understand what the elevator pitch is. You have 30 seconds. The first question that employers are going to ask you 99% of the time is, tell me a little bit about yourself. You should know who can explain you better than you. Be able in 30 seconds to effectively communicate who you are, what you know, why you want to be here, why they need to have you here, and be confident about that. Just as Joel said, the handshake tells me everything about you when I first meet you. Your voice keeps me interested. As Joel said, it's a conversation.
Right.
As soon as you get the interviewer from, they're looking at this checklist here and they're going off question after question, your mission at being interviewed is to get them to put this paper down.
Exactly.
As long as they're asking you, well, tell me about yourself. How long was your longest job? This, that, and the third. They're just checking you off. You're just candidate number 25683.
Correct.
But as soon as you start talking to them and getting into a conversation, and the less they're looking at the paper, the more they're looking at you. Now they're connecting with you. Now you're communicating. If they're still looking at the paper, you're not doing your job. Get them to put this paper down and start looking at you.
And I know with some of the youth, sometimes they get nervous when you ask them a question. So I tell them, go home, write it out. Write out what you're going to say, get your spill together, almost like a script. And that way, when they ask you, tell me about yourself, you've said it over and over and over again, so you're not prepared with the right things to say that's going to get you the job.
And the way that you can get them to put that paper down is connecting with them.
Right.
So what does that mean for you? It means before you go in for the interview, you have internet. If you don't have a computer at home, go to the library. Look up the company that you're interviewing with. Find out something that's going to let that individual know, this is a 16 or 17-year-old, and he knows this about my company that some of my adults don't know. Find that connection point. They'll put that paper down, and then they'll start sharing more stuff with you about the company. You'll make that connection, then it builds a lovely relationship, and you'll walk out the door feeling great and really feeling confident that you've gotten that job.
Yeah, and something with youth and adults alike, everyone is terrified and scared of the chair. Of the chair. As soon as I sit down in the chair, I'm terrified, I'm scared. And the reason they're terrified is, what if I don't get the job? What if they don't like me? And we have to break that fear. Well, if you don't get that job, go look for another one.
Right.
You know, it's get out of that chair and go sit in another.
one.
This is not the only chair you will sit in for the rest of your life.
And everybody doesn't have to like you.
Right, right. And so literally get off that fear. Get that out of your head to understand that if I sit in this chair and I leave out and I never sit in that chair again, there's another chair waiting for me.
Right.
That's the best thing you can do.
And I always tell them, you know, as far as the youth goes, practice makes perfect.
Right.
This may be your first interview, so of course I'm expecting for you to be nervous. After you do 20 or 30 of them, it'll come more natural.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with going back. If you didn't get a job, some companies do it, some may not. Call them back and say, you know, thank you for interviewing with me. Want some feedback from you of what I could have done better to get that job. Some of them will be really impressed that you did that.
Right.
And will give you information that will help you in your next job interview.
Okay. Another topic. We spoke briefly about it earlier, but dressing. I know with the youth, sometimes, as we spoke earlier, the youth can be very creative, and sometimes we get on interview days bright red suits or loud colors. What is the tone for interview attire when you're going on an interview?
Well, I'll let the corporate guy first.
Man, I wish we had a woman on this panel. I talked about guys being in suits and ties, but ladies, I don't want to smell you or see you before you come around the corner. And what I mean by that is don't let your perfume fumigate the whole lobby. Men too, cologne. Don't let it drown out the whole lobby. Hairstyles. You know, one of the things that we used to do at work, we used to have a running joke is, we'd sit by and wait for this particular woman to come in the office because we knew her hair was going to be different every week. Never let your hair be the topic of conversation for Monday morning. You know, you want to be consistent. And when you're going for an interview, you really want to be as modest as possible. Right. So everything that we do has some effect. So yes, some of us have tattoos, have piercings. Wear something that covers them. You know, for guys, if you have a whole bunch, take them out for that interview because you may not be able to wear them at the workplace. So you want to be able to, and it also goes into adapting into that culture. You know, once you get the job, that may be something that's required of you every day. So you want to make sure that, you know, what you wear represents who you are in a way that the company will appreciate. You don't want to have, you know, open-toed shoes that are too small or too big.
Right.
You want to make sure that your skirts are appropriate length. You know, you don't want to sneeze and everyone sees your business. But, you know, those things, you know, men, you want to make sure that your pants are at your waist. Your waist does not start down here. Your waist is up here. So you want to make sure you have a belt. If it has belt loops, that means the belt should be worn with those pants.
Right.
Whether, you know. Right. So those are just some of the things you want to make sure your shoes are polished. You know, simple stuff. Make sure you brush your hair. Make sure it doesn't look like you just got out of the bed and rolled into the interview.
Properly groomed.
You want to be properly groomed. You want to make sure that body odor, you know, take a bath. Right. Soap, water, all those things. So it's simple stuff, but those things can really make or break an interview.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that in a sensitive light. We often, you know,
I wasn't sensitive enough.
Well, no. I want to talk, and it's crazy. I want to be sensitive, and then I want to come back and hit them hard.
Hit them hard. Okay.
You know, we're talking about youth, And unfortunately, some youth, or most youth that come through our doors, they say, look, I know how to dress. I have been beaten over the head that I need to have a great dark suit with a great tie with shoes. I don't have that. I don't have the money for that. What do? I don't have, a great outfit or a great ensemble. So on the sensitive note, I tell them, do the best that you can. Right. If all you have is one pair of slacks and a polo shirt, and that's the best that you can do, you go in there and make sure that that is the best looking polo shirt and pair of slacks that you have and anyone has ever seen. Now, if you say that I have one shirt, I don't have a tie, that's fine. Make sure the shirt is ironed. Yes. Make sure that it's pressed. Make sure, just simple things. Making sure that you actually unbutton that cuff and iron that cuff. Making sure that you're as polished as can be. Now, that's a sensitive nature.
Okay.
Now, you tell me that you don't have the money for you to buy a suit, for you to buy a nice pair of slacks and a shirt, but I am looking at the newest pair of Jordans that just came out, and I am really serious, and I'm harping on this because especially as a male, and I see our young men coming in the door of all ethnicities, they come in, they've got the brand new pair that just came out. They tell me that they got in the line at 2 o'clock in the morning to wait for this shoe to get out. And that shoe costs $140, $150, $160. I tell them that is a great pair of shoes. You can put those on Craigslist for $120 and buy you 2 or 3 great outfits to go not only to the interview but go to work. Because guess what? Even if you wear that same pair, those slacks and that shirt to the interview, now you've got to go to work. You can't wear those Jordans to work, but I tell you what, if you get you a nice, decent pair of shoes, slacks, and a couple of shirts, you'll be able to go to work consistently, and you'll be able to buy another pair of Jordans.
More pairs.
So it's just that is a very big pet peeve of mine. So sensitive, but hit them hard again.
You got 'em.
If you've got the money for Jordans, you got the money for interview clothes.
Right.
Cell phones during the interview.
What do you mean? What do you mean cell phones? You mean they carry cell phones? No, leave them in the car.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Just leave them in the car.
Cell phones, very inappropriate for an interview setting.
Yeah.
Right. Leave them in the car. If you took public transportation, turn them off. I've literally seen one guy take his battery out of his phone because he said, even if I have my phone turned off and if it's in my pocket, it'll turn back on if I hit it a certain way. I mean, make sure that, my phone, I always keep my phone on vibrate. However, I swear that my phone's on ring because I have the loudest vibrating phone known to man. It sounds like a ringtone. So make sure that you just turn it completely off or take the battery out if you have to. You're not going to talk to anyone in the interview, so leave it in the car if possible.
When the interview is coming to a close, what suggestions would you give to the youth to seal the deal?
The first question is, tell me a little bit about yourself. The last question is, do you have any questions? The answer is always yes.
Exactly.
Show them that you're interested in this job. Ask them questions about the position, about the job. What are they looking for in the employee? Let them know that you're interested. The worst thing you can do in an interview, other than not making eye contact and communicating, but the killer is, do you have any questions? Nope, I'm okay. Nope, you answered all my questions. I'm ready to go. Okay, well, thanks. You are, candidate 23843, and your resume is at file 13. It's just make sure that you show that you're interested in this position and in this company and in that person interviewing you.
To wrap up our one-on-one session for youth employment, you want to first have your resume. Your resume needs to be clear of errors. Utilize your spell check on your computers, and be straight to the point, clear and concise on your resume. You also want to get your foot in the door by volunteering or doing internships or utilizing the externships that the company or organization may provide. Dressing is very important. You want to be professional as possible. Loud colors aren't very appropriate in the employment interviewing setting. Stick to dark tone colors when you're looking for the proper attire to wear for your interview. Find a job is a job in itself.
I do have one other thing that I think we didn't touch on, and that's regarding the interview process. When I say interviewing, the interview doesn't stop once you leave the door. And what I mean by that is social media.
Okay.
So you definitely want to make sure, because some employers will go out, Facebook, MySpace, become your friend. You're thinking it's all fine and dandy, and then when they see the comments that are coming from you and the conversations that are going back and forth, that can also either help you or hurt you.
Right,
So you
right.
want to make sure that your social identity is just as well as your personal identity that you relate in interviews. So I just want to make sure
Right.
we touch on that.
Research is critical. Making sure that you not only research the company, but research the position that you're looking for. Making sure that you know exactly where the interview is located. If you have an interview on Tuesday, drive out there or take the bus out there on Monday and do it during busy times so that you are allowing yourself time for traffic. You're allowing yourself time for anything that may happen. And making sure that you take this interview seriously. The one thing people don't understand is if you have an interview, you have what 10,000 other people do not have. So take it very seriously. This is an opportunity for you to better your life. Be accountable, be responsible, show up and show out. If you do that, you already have a leg up because you're in the interview itself. Sell yourself. Only you can do that. Not your resume, not anyone else. Only you can do that. Take it very seriously.
And in saying that, my name is Montique Shepard, again working at Tampa Bay Workforce Alliance as a career specialist in the WEA Youth Department. And I want to thank my guests, Mr. Joel Howell, representing Pricewaterhouse Human Resources, and Mr. Freddie Barton, representing CDC of Tampa. I want to thank you for spending time with me today and getting the word out to the youth. Let's get jobs.